the whole economy crashing down. They claimed that human wants were insatiable and looked to psychology to stimulate spending.
Why feel low? Why be a little guy? Now you can be just as tall as your best girl. Slip into a pair of upsy-daisy shoes. They give you a lift.
After the Great Depression and World War II, a lift was just what Americans wanted. And business was eager to provide it, with a little help from the government.
The new automobiles stream from the factories. Fresh buying power floods into all the stores of every community. Prosperity greater than history has ever known.
Low-interest federal loans and spending on superhighways fueled the suburban housing boom. The expansion of credit made large consumer purchases easier, and the good life became the goods life.
We have the money to spend, and we want all the lovely smelling soaps, lotions, and glamour goo we can get with it. Our egos are best nourished by a well-placed investment in real luxury goods, what you might call discreetly conspicuous waste.
The immediate post-war period does represent a huge change in the kinds of attitudes that Americans have had about consumption.
Convenience was the new ideal, disposable the means. Use it once and throw it away. Families were encouraged to buy a new car every year. Marketers called it planned obsolescence. Products became obsolete because they were out of style, whether they still worked or not.
They were saying, the car that you had last year won't do anymore, and it won't do anymore because it doesn't look right. There's now a new car, and that's what we want to be driving.
Consumer society was triumphant, but not without critics. In the 1960s, a small but vocal counterculture called for a simpler way of life. Then in 1974, a nationwide oil shortage caused many people to wonder if we might run out of resources. And by 1979, even our president was questioning the American dream.
Too many of us now tend to worship self-indulgence and consumption.
Part of Jimmy Carter's failure was his lack of recognition of how deeply seated the high, wide, and handsome notion of economic growth and capital development had become in the modern American psyche.
Since Mr. Carter lost by a landslide, no presidential candidate has dared challenge the goal of infinite economic growth.
'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be.
Bill Clinton and Al Gore appreciated the sentiments contained in this old Shaker hymn, but they pledged to grow the economy faster than their opponents could.
And in Bob Dole and Jack Kemp's opinion, we should aim at doubling the size of the American economy in the next 15 years.
When Jack Kemp offered that opinion, his debate opponent, Vice President Gore, never questioned whether it would really be a good idea for Americans to consume twice as much as they do now. Now, I know what you're going to say. This won't hurt, right?
Wrong.
Ouch. I'm calling my lawyer. Shots sting, but they're supposed to help. Now, there is no shot for affluenza, but help is possible, and if you stay with us, we'll tell you about it after this message.
The average North American consumes 5 times more than a Mexican, 10 times more than a Chinese person, and 30 times more than a person from India. We are the most voracious consumers in the world.
If you've never seen this uncommercial before, it's not for lack of effort to get it on the air.
All the major networks in North America have rejected just about all of our television uncommercials.
That hasn't stopped these activists in Vancouver, British Columbia from producing them. They organize an annual event called Buy Nothing Day as a protest against consumer culture.
Consumerism and overconsumption is really the mother of all our environmental problems.
Cully Lawson, who was a market researcher until a sudden change of heart, is the publisher of a magazine called Adbusters. It's filled with slick parodies of real ads. But his real dream is to get uncommercials on commercial television.
Take back your children.
I think that commercial television is the command center of our consumer culture.
Why are 9 out of 10 women dissatisfied with some aspect of their own bodies?
Many of the uncommercials are designed by refugees from the advertising industry.
clandestinely they come and they help us to come up with our environmental and other kind of messages which are trying to use television to change the world for the better. Invading the command center of consumerism with some very, very powerful antiviruses.
It's coming. The end of the age of the automobile.
Television executives continue to reject the ads, even though the producers are willing to pay for the airtime. Lawson is challenging the rejections in court. But even without television, these ad busters find ways to get their message out.
Hey, we'll put another one up here. Woohoo! Okay, one more.
This year, Buy Nothing Day has exploded. Not only are we in 8 countries around the world, but our phone is ringing off the hook, and it's becoming a truly international celebration of frugality and living lightly on the planet and of voluntary simplicity.
In Seattle, the Buy Nothing Day celebration included music by a group called the Raging Grannies and signs urging passers-by to cut up their credit cards. Several did.
Woo! All right, look at that card getting cut up. It feels so good. Here you go.
And though most shoppers ignored the protest, some found it thought-provoking.
This is a luxurious country. You don't really need it stuff. Like, we just buy stuff because we're in like a commercial society and stuff. I'm able to pass some of these out.
I feel that we're at the early stages of a second American Revolution to reconsider this consumption binge that we've been on for almost half a century now. It's going to keep on gathering momentum, and somewhere along the line, even the economists will come on board.
Consumption really is at the heart of the entire apparatus that we're looking at right now.
As a first step toward improving our quality of life, economists could change the way they measure progress. Critics say the current yardstick, growth of the gross domestic product, or GDP, is severely flawed.
As the economy that Americans experience gets worse, the GDP often portrays it as better.
Take a family going through divorce, for example.
First, they have costly legal bills. Then they establish 2 households instead of 1 household. Buying and spending goes up considerably, but meanwhile, what you have is family breakdown.
The more we pay the costs of affluenza, the healthier the GDP says we are.
Every time a forest falls, the GNP goes up. With every oil spill, the GNP goes up. Every time a new cancer patient is diagnosed, the GNP goes up.
We're amassing a large...
Ted Halstead and his colleagues have developed a different measurement of economic success, the GPI, or Genuine Progress Indicator.
The GPI takes into account 24 aspects of our economic lives that the GDP ignores. They start with, for example, the value of housework and volunteerism. We add for that. We subtract things like the cost of crime, the cost of car accidents, the cost of family breakdown.
While GDP continues to rise, the GPI has been falling since 1973.
Meaning that by this measure, the overall costs of increased economic activity are starting to outweigh the benefits. There's now a gnawing sense that we're passing on a world of social, environmental, and economic debt to our children.
Joe Dominguez would agree, and for more than 20 years, this former stock market analyst has been doing something about it.
When I was on Wall Street, I saw that people that had more money were not necessarily any happier. They had just as many problems as the folks that lived in my ghetto neighborhood where I grew up. So it began to dawn on me that money didn't buy happiness, a very simple finding.
So Joe tried frugality. He found he enjoyed life more, and he saved so much he was able to retire early and live on his interest. And he taught other people how to cut their spending. Vicki Robin was one of them.
I found that I needed to learn how to fix things, and I became fascinated with living life directly and developing my skills and capacities and ingenuity rather than just earning more and more money and throwing money at problems.
We have so confused standard of living with quality of life.
Soon Vicki, too, was teaching workshops about using money wisely. In time, the workshops led to a popular audio cassette course, a charitable foundation, and a best-selling book called Your Money or Your Life.